everybody, this is Julissa. Thank you so much for coming back for part 2 of the Rey Rivera death and mystery at the Belvedere Hotel. Okay, this is part 2. I figure I'm just gonna do it and post part 1 and part 2 so everybody can join in the conversation, tell me their opinion about it. Okay, so in part 1 I left off by saying pretty much my opinion about the house guest Claudia, right? I think that visit should have been canceled, I think, because her friend was not even gonna be there, like, right? So why even continue on? But the fact that Claudia really hasn't, if she would at least do an interview with Allison together and tell her in an interview for everyone to see, right? Because like I mentioned, when you're not clear about something and people have questions for you, it leads to a speculation. And usually when people assume stuff, it's usually never positive. And kind of like to come out with Allison and kind of explain to him or give an interview, right? And I'm calling an interview for Claudia and Allison together at least, so that she can say, she remembers, I know it's been so long, she can say how was Rey when she got to the house, how was his demeanor, anything, any other phone calls that he get that she remembered, any information I think would have been helpful. I'm sure, but she probably got interviewed by the police and all of that, and basically doesn't want to be part of this public continuous research about what happened to Rey. But I think, like I said, all of these cases when somebody is dying mysteriously like this, usually the person who sees them for the last time has some type of involvement. This is, besides being my opinion, it's also the way you can do your own research, and you can see when you hear about cases of mysterious disappearance, you hear things like this. Who was the person who saw them last? What did they say to this person? That is the reason why I'm focusing a lot of attention on Claudia, the house guest that they had, because after everything that have been happening in the house, with the alarm going off, the middle of the night, all of that stuff, anybody would be like, oh, that's a little weird, I don't want to stay there. I think any person will reconsider their plan to still stay there. They will reconsider the idea of staying there even when your friend is not there. You're like, oh, you're not even gonna be here, okay, never mind. Like, it's just questionable. Her actions are questionable. The fact that she hasn't even come out, or we don't even know what she looks like, is very questionable, in my opinion. I'm referring to Claudia. Everybody's so much focused on Porter Stansberry, and they have this kind of like focus on him, like this is the person who is responsible, that they're forgetting their other friend, right? The other friend involved in this, in the relationship with Rey and Allison, is the house guest Claudia, that still proceeded to stay there without her friend being there, right? Let's just say they never told her about the alarm going off overnight. Like, your friend is not even gonna be there. Why continue on with this, right? It's just very questionable. And I believe the reason why people go after so much and speculate so much about Potter as Stansberry is because they work together, right? In Potter, I think that's his name, Potter Stansberry. He's very successful at what he did, but you have to remember though, excuse me, it's very windy today. Potter Stansberry kind of like was the one who said to Rey, hey, come here, I can give you work, right? And he's basically the one who kind of helped the friend, provided so much for them. People want to put him down, saying, this guy show up at their wedding in Puerto Rico in his own helicopter or something like this, kind of like showing off and this like that. There are people who like to show off what they have, and that's okay. That's their personality, right? That's just what they do, right? But you have to remember what Porter Stansberry did for Rey, his new wife, right? He opened an opportunity for them to go to Maryland to worked there to earn a living, to, he facilitated so much because he really appreciated Rey as his friend. And I feel like everybody's just so focused on, like I said, on Potter Stansbury being somewhat responsible just because he said, one of the things that Potter Stansbury said to all of the employees that work in the company with Rey was that there's going to be a gag order. Like, nobody's allowed to speak to the press, nobody's allowed to speak. So he did the gag order. He refused to speak after without a lawyer, but you also need to remember that Potter Stansbury, which was Rey's friend who gave him the job over there, who asked him to kind of go to Baltimore and try it out, right, to Maryland. He's the one who also put the reward. The first reward to find Rey was done by Potter Stansbury, and people always want to mark it down. It was like, oh, it was just $1,000. He was the only one who did that, right? He's the one who gave him a job. He's the one who did the reward, gave him a job, and kind of like, spoke to the investigators about him, right? He wanted to kind of like shut down and say, I believe, my opinion, I think Potter Stansbury kind of saw that perhaps the questions that are being directed towards him made him somewhat involved in this whole disappearance, that he's like, I gotta protect my people, I gotta protect my company, I gotta protect myself, I gotta protect everything. So he immediately took action. He's like, he probably asked for a lawyer. He put the gag order for the company employees, and he's like, I'm not talking about it anymore, right? And I feel like so much emphasis is put on him, forgetting, when you do like 3 million favors for somebody, and then you say one day, I'm not available that day, they completely bash you down. They forget everything else you've done positive for them just because you're not available that one time. I think this is kind of like, similar in that sense, that everything is like, they forget all the good that he did for Rey and Allison. And, they look at everything after, saying why he doesn't let employees talk about Rey or nothing like that, instead of realizing he's protecting his business, he's protecting his company because he doesn't want any trouble, right? Maybe he sensed that the questioning for him were kind of like somewhat involving him, perhaps, right? We really don't know, but I feel like people need to start looking at the person who never wanted to speak. Because, if you're telling me that Allison is coming out and saying, my friend Claudia I feel bad that she had to go through something like this, that I should have told her not to come, nothing like that. From what I'm seeing, a lot of interviews that Allison has done, and she has spoken to the press, it's almost like she doesn't even mention Claudia that much. It's almost like she doesn't even like, she doesn't really like, she doesn't want to get her like in the midst involved. And I go back to patterns, and when you hear about people disappearing like this, and then their body being found a week after, somehow, somewhere, it's usually the person who's seen them the last. They know something. There's some knowledge, right? There's something that they have seen, and it's just, a big question mark for me when it comes to Claudia and Allison, right? So it says here that, so what Claudia said was that he got a call around 6:30. There was a phone call that ran in the house, and she said that shortly after he answered the call, Claudia heard Rey yell, oh, this, and then he said he rushed out of the house in flip-flops and drove away in Allison's black SUV. Soon after Rey left, he briefly returned to the house and left again in the same SUV. This was the last time anyone reported seeing or hearing from Rey Rivera. Okay? You're staying at somebody's house. Your friend is not even there. And you see this strange behavior from the husband. And you're not gonna be like, you know what, Allison, I think I'm gonna have to go out to the hotel. You're still gonna persist to stay there. And I'm saying persist because she never wanted to leave. Claudia never said, you know what, something's off, right? And this is me giving her the grace that perhaps she never knew about the alarm going off. It's like, why is this man running away so fast? Like, I'm staying in their house. He doesn't say, hey, Claudia, I'll be right back. He doesn't acknowledge me and say, hey, Claudia, if you need something, just call me. I'm going to be at my friend's house. I'll be like, I'm texting my friend right now. I'm out of here. Like, he's a little odd. Like, he doesn't really come out and talk to me. And she's not even here. I feel uncomfortable. Let me just leave to a hotel or something since I'm already here. Why would you continue on with this visitation, right? That to me, this is why I feel like it would be so greatly appreciated if Claudia comes out and speaks, right? So Allison tried calling Rey several times that evening, but he never answered. This struck her as odd because the couple called and tested one another each day, especially if one of them was out of town. Even so, she went to bed, assuming Rey was probably out late with some friends. Early the next morning, before her flight to New York, Claudia called Allison and said that Rey still hadn't returned home. Claudia also mentioned how the downstairs lights were still on, as were the lights in his upstairs office. Becoming deeply concerned, Allison tried to call Rey again, but her previous attempts he didn't answer. Now, extremely worried, she ended up her business trip early and drove back to Baltimore. So you mean to tell me that, oh my goodness, is the next day and her friend Claudia stayed there and all the lights were still on. She noticed that he never returned back home. The house lights are on, the office lights are on, and she just called Claudia the next morning? Like, how did you sleep that day? This is not even like your house, like, and the person who's hosting you, let's just say Rey, right, is not even in the house yet. The wife is away, your friend, right? And you have no concerns whatsoever. You never been to their house. It's a new home, right? And this is me assuming that she didn't know about the alarm. And no, there's no like, let me call her. I know it's late. She's gonna hate me for waking her up, but I gotta tell her that I'm checking out, I'm leaving or something. It's just so strange to me. I don't know how people live that kind of sits, but this is something that you normally would not do, right? So she said she was returning early the next morning before her flight to New York City. Claudia called Allison and told her that he never returned home. Allison left to her house, right? By the time Allison returned home, Rey still wasn't there, but oddly enough, his laptop was still on the kitchen counter, along with his Invisalign, a bag of chips, and a sparkling water drink. Later that day, Allison called the Baltimore Police Department to report her husband missing. By the end of the day, Rey's parents, brother Angel, and sister arrived in Baltimore to help find Rey. Allison's parents arrived shortly after, as did some of the couple's close friends. I look at all of that, right? And I know Claudia had a flight to catch and all of that, but you know, it's just, there's no like, I'll stay here until you come back, you know, and see, and I can help you figure out what's going on with him. let me change my flight, let me do something. It's almost like the way she came in knowing that her friend was not going to be there, and the way she left knowing that he never got home. It's also very telling of the type of person that Claudia is. It's like, I don't want nothing to do with this, but she still continued with her visit to stay over their house. She never, she doesn't say, I came down, at 10 p.m. to get something quick to eat because I needed some type of snack or something. And I could hear him in the office working. There's nothing from her about that, right? It's like, it's very strange that the house guests that they had, the behavior of the house guests, in my opinion, is very strange. Everybody's so focused on his friend who gave him a job, who put a reward for him, who was at their wedding, and all of that, and nobody's questioning the other friend, I feel, who was probably the last person who heard him alive or saw him leave, right? Because that's what she said. He just came back and left a couple times. So it's just very strange. So then Allison got home, and they started, they called the police. His family came too, and they were searching for him, right? During the search, Porter, Ray's friend that gave him the job, told a journalist that Ray was a happy guy. He and his wife had just booked a trip to New Mexico in a few weeks. This is not a man that wanted to leave. I gotta find my friend. I can't imagine my life without him. He's my best friend. That's what his friend Porter said to the authorities. Angel also told the newspaper about his brother's disappearance. It is completely out of character. He's not only going to tell you where he's going to tell you how he got there. For him to go this long and not contact any of his family or friend, it got everybody scared. As the day progressed, hope began to fade. Finally, on May 22nd, 2006, Allison's parents drove downtown to locate Ray's SUV. By chance, they spotted Ray's SUV in a downtown parking lot near the historical 14-story building called the Belvedere Hotel. The building used to be a hotel, but now houses apartments, restaurants, clubs, and bars. Interesting enough, this parking lot was very close to Ray's workplace. The parking ticket on the SUV showed the vehicle was parked on May 16. The night he received a phone call and ran out of the house. Upon arriving for work on Tuesday morning, May 17, a parking lot attendant saw the SUV. Now the search effort focused on this general vicinity. On May 24, Ray's co-workers spent the lunch break searching for him, thinking that the bird's eye view will help to find some clues. The Belvedere, the top level of the parking garage, overlooks the building connected to the Belvedere. Looking over the ledge of the parking garage, Ray's three co-workers spotted a small hole on the second floor of the extended building. 2 flip-flops, a cell phone, keys, and eyeglasses were scattered around the hole. The co-workers felt uneasy and called the police, and the police figured out the hole was in the conference room on the second floor building. An employee of the Belvedere took them to the conference room. When the door was open, a horrible stench immediately hit everyone in the hallway. The hole in the ceiling was like a sunroof, showing the bright blue sky and allowing light into the room. The sunlight exposed the several damaged body of Rey Rivera sprawled out on the floor under the hole. Decomposition had already set in as Ray's body has been laying in the room over a week. So his body was found, and sorry, I'm looking at my time here before I run out of time for the podcast. So they found the body, and like I said, they found the flip-flops, his sunglasses, and keys around his body. Right before, I think I said he was wearing the flip-flops, it was just scattered around him. So You know, I think there's so many unanswered questions in this case. It's so unfortunate, but Porter said today, when he was still speaking to police and the news, he said, I cannot imagine my life without my best friend. He's a happy guy. He was planning a trip to New Mexico with his wife. Allison said that he bought $15,000 worth of equipment. He had rented a studio. That he was doing so many things, right? So why we have all this testimony from the family, the friends, and all of that, except for Claudia? The only thing that Claudia is saying is like, I heard him speak and say this. He got 2 phone calls. Like, she was in the same house with him. She could hear what he was talking about. She could hear what he was doing. She noticed that he didn't return home, right? And she's the last person to saw him. You mean to tell me that Claudia got there around 6:30 or 4 o'clock evening? She got there that day. And she's not going to really come out and say, this is the conversation that we had. You're showing up at somebody's house. Your friend is out there. And the husband is completely in his room doing his things, completely ignoring you, making sure you're good. How did you, when you go to somebody's house, how did you turn this shower on? How did you do this? And where can I get this? Where can I get the other? Because she showed up and Allison had already left, right? She never been to the house. They just bought the house. And Claudia is not telling any interaction about how that went around. How was he? Did you ask him how to get this? How to turn the stove on if you wanted to make some food? No, he's in his room doing his thing. I'm in my room doing his thing. I don't buy it. It's just something odd with that. It's not normal behavior. And the fact that she just kind of left too, before Allison got there, she's like, I'm leaving. I gotta catch my flight. But FYI, your husband never came back home. What is that, right? It's a lot of unanswered question when it comes to Claudia. So one thing before I finish here, that I have to say, because in this case, Ray was interested in learning about Freemasonry, and he just bought a book about it too. And also they found a note, scripted, folded up, tied next to his tied up to his computer, taped up on his computer desktop. And the note was talking about the great inventions that they have done, society has done, and referring to a lot of movies and things like that. I mean, for me, to be honest, that note about movies and actors and creating great things in medicine, Ray is a writer. He has a creative mind. He has a mind that is always, he had a mind that's always creating things, right? Fantasy, things about movies, connecting with another movie and things like that. So to see that note that was found by police taped up on his desktop, it reminds me kind of like a high school thing that you used to do back in the day. It's kind of like, let's find this, tape up this treasure here, this treasure map, and whoever finds it, they get the prize or something. Kind of like show his innocence in that way, the way his mind was working. But like I said, I think it was just that. It was just a fantasy note that this writer who loved writing about movies and things like that wanted to write about. And that was it. That's just how I see it. But a lot of unanswered questions, guys. If you have followed this case, let me know what you think about this. I'm almost out of time here, but I do want to thank you for coming and listening. And I'm going to put the footage that I was able to take outside the Belvedere Hotel in Baltimore that I was able to visit over the weekend. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming back to my channel. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Let me know what you think. God bless. Hi everybody, this is Julissa. Thank you so much for coming to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good day everybody. God bless.